of. Let's go over here and check it out right here.
With 14 seconds separating shot.
That man, look, hey, my man Andre Drummond really squared up. Like this was about to be boxing. For real. Look at him. He go Oh, that's good. There's Carter.
That's not a basketball play. That's Andre Drummond putting up his fists like he's about to step into a 1910 boxing ring. And the guy he's squaring up against, that's Wendell Carter Jr., who just happens to be dating WNBA superstar Angel Reese. This altercation from Tuesday night's NBA Cup game has tentacles reaching into the WNBA world in ways most people aren't talking about. Because when you look at who's involved in this melee, the connections get fascinating fast.
Like he was the Notre Dame logo. Literally. Like, let me at you. Let me at you. I'm going to get you. I'm going to get like 1910 style. 1910 boxing. That's the year I'm talking about. 1910. That's how you saw them old guys box. By the way, there was some tough SOBs back in that day.
Let's map out the players involved here. Wendell Carter Jr. plays center for the Orlando Magic, averaging 9.1 points and 8.5 rebounds this season. His girlfriend Angel Reese just finished her rookie WNBA season with the Chicago Sky, where she averaged 13.6 points and led all rookies with 13.1 rebounds per game. Then you've got Jalen Suggs, the Magic guard who came sprinting in to defend his teammate. Suggs used to date Haley Van Lith, the former LSU guard who now plays for TCU, and the instigator Andre Drummond, the Philadelphia 76ers center, who's built an entire 15-year career on the exact same playing style that made Angel Reese famous. Relentless rebounding with limited offensive skill.
Late in the first half of an NBA Cup contest, Drummond was guarding Carter, which led the pair to getting tangled up. Seconds later, both sets of players and coaching staff between the pair and the skirmish was over. However, out of nowhere, Magic guard Jalen Suggs sprinted in and shoved Drummond, which escalated the situation and brought even more players and coaches onto the court.
Watch how quickly NBA players separate this situation compared to what we see in the WNBA. Within seconds, coaching staff and teammates have bodies between Drummond and Carter. Nobody's throwing punches. Nobody's escalating. Then Jalen Suggs comes flying in with that shove on Drummond, and even that gets controlled immediately. The contrast with WNBA altercations is stark. When things pop off in the W, you get extended confrontations, players squaring up for longer periods, and significantly more physical contact before separation happens.
Out and said the following after the fact, and it's actually kind of funny because they were getting their ass kicked, and he was like, bleep this, I got to do something. It is funny. Quote, I had to stop the bleeding, man. Drummond said after the loss, I had to stop the bleeding. They went on a crazy run. For me, if you can see me, I looked up at the score and I was like, man, this effing nasty. I got to do something.
Here's what Drummond said after the game, and this is where it gets interesting from a strategic standpoint. The 76ers were getting destroyed. Orlando went on a massive run, and Philly was down big in the second quarter. Drummond looked up at the scoreboard and decided he needed to manufacture some energy, some momentum, anything to stop the bleeding. So he intentionally antagonized Carter, got tangled up with him, and when Carter reacted, Drummond started clapping because he'd accomplished exactly what he wanted. He got an opponent ejected.
Appearance on FanDuel's Run It Back podcast. Quote, that's my girl, though. We locked in for sure, he said when pressed on whether the pair was a couple. Reese has been dropping hints about their relationship with Carter, her relationship with Carter for months now. And yeah, we've seen her around games, yada, yada, yada. So, I mean, it's something everybody suspected. And to me, that's not news. I just don't see that as like news. In the same way that I don't want to hear about all these old gals in the W, hunching around with each other and hanging out. You know what I mean? I don't need to hear about Angel Reese's relationship either, you know?
The problem? It didn't work. Philadelphia still lost by 35 points. finishing with a final score of 121-86. The manufactured confrontation, the ejection of Jalen Suggs, none of it mattered, which raises the question Drummond himself acknowledged. Was that really the best way to try changing momentum? Because here's what he could have done instead. He could have attacked the offensive glass harder. He could have demanded the ball in the post. He could have set harder screens to free up Tyrese Maxey. Actually play basketball at a higher level. But that's never been Drummond's game. Over 15 NBA seasons, he's been a 4-time rebounding champion who averages 8.6 points per game for his career. This season with Philadelphia, he's putting up 8 points and 10.7 rebounds in 17 minutes per game. Sound familiar? Those are almost identical ratios to Angel Reese's rookie numbers when you adjust for minutes played. Reese averaged 13.6 points and 13.1 rebounds in 32. Scale Drummond's production up to 33 minutes, and you'd get roughly 15 points and 20 rebounds. The playing styles are mirror images: dominate the glass, struggle to score efficiently, impact the game through effort and positioning rather than skill.
Celebrity gossip side of it all, I don't give a rat's ass about that. No, I'm good. I don't care who Angel Reese hangs around with. That's no big deal. I thought it was hilarious, dude. Dude, really, he was getting down like jab, 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 jab. Bob weave, jab. Yeah. Hey, you're getting your ass kicked by 45. I guess you better do something.
The relationship between Carter and Reese became public just a few weeks ago, when Carter appeared on the Run It Back podcast with Michelle Beadle and Chandler Parsons. When they pressed him about whether he and Angel were actually together, Carter said, quote, "That's my girl though. We locked in for sure." Angel had been dropping hints for months, showing up courtside at Magic games, posting photos that fans immediately connected. But Carter's confirmation made it official. Now here's what makes this dynamic interesting. From a basketball perspective, Wendell Carter is in his 7th NBA season, making $11.6 million this year with Orlando. He's a legitimate NBA rotation player, averaging close to a double-double when healthy. Angel Reese just completed her rookie WNBA season, making $73,439 on her rookie scale contract. The financial disparity is massive, which is standard for NBA-WNBA relationships. But it also means Carter understands the professional basketball world at a level that gives him unique perspective on what Angel's experiencing in her career.
Here's a suggestion, Andre Drummond. Instead of squaring a dude up, which, by the way, this kind of thing happened in the 80s and 90s quite a bit. Like if Jordan went on a hot streak, somebody was subject to push on him. Now, the difference, and it's why you didn't see a bunch of threes thrown up back in the day either. Because after a guy hit about the fourth three in a row, somebody like Anthony Mason was going to come in and put you in the second row of seats. They sent messages, that was the game back then. It was great. It was great. But every team had an enforcer. So if somebody checked Michael, then you had Bill Cartwright come in, or Will Perdue, or Horace Grant. And they would check them, Rodman eventually. Tell me what you think. Peace.
The celebrity gossip angle doesn't interest me much. Who these athletes date in their personal lives is their business. But what does matter is how these relationships intersect with the basketball narrative, especially when an altercation involves your girlfriend's boyfriend and draws attention to the playing style comparison between him and a WNBA star. Because here's the uncomfortable truth that this incident highlights. Andre Drummond has made over $150 million in his NBA career, doing essentially what Angel Reese does on a basketball court. He rebounds relentlessly, plays physical defense, scores in limited ways mostly off putbacks and dunks, and impacts games through effort rather than skill. The difference? Drummond is 7 feet tall and 280 pounds competing against other 7-footers. Reese is 6'3" competing against other 6-footers. The relative impact is comparable, but the financial reward is wildly different because of the revenue their respective leagues generate. Let's talk about what actually happened in this game. Beyond the altercation, because the context matters. The Philadelphia 76ers came into this NBA Cup game, struggling, and Orlando absolutely demolished them from the opening tip. The Magic built their lead systematically through the first quarter, then exploded in the second quarter, with the kind of run that makes coaches call multiple timeouts trying to stop the momentum. Nothing worked for Philly. That's when Drummond decided to create a spark through confrontation. Late in the first half, with his team getting embarrassed on national television, he got physical with Carter under the basket. They tangled up, bodies got intertwined, and instead of just separating, Drummond held the contact longer than necessary. Carter reacted by squaring up, which is exactly what Drummond wanted. Then Drummond put his hands up in that exaggerated boxing stance, fists raised, like he's posing for an old-timey photograph, which was both ridiculous and calculated. The officials immediately stepped in, but then Jalen Suggs made the critical mistake. He came sprinting from across the court and shoved Drummond in the back, which escalated everything and brought both benches onto the floor. In the aftermath, Suggs got ejected for the shove. Carter received a technical foul. Drummond got a technical foul but stayed in the game, which from his perspective meant mission accomplished. He'd gotten an opponent thrown out while staying on the court himself, except it accomplished nothing. Philadelphia continued getting destroyed, eventually losing 121-86. The 35-point margin was one of their worst defeats of the season. Drummond's attempt at old-school enforcer tactics, the kind of physical intimidation that used to work in the 1980s and 1990s, fell completely flat in the modern NBA. Today's game moves too fast, relies too heavily on three-point shooting and spacing, for a simple altercation to shift momentum the way it might have 30 years ago. Drummond acknowledged this in his post-game comments, when he said, quote, "We still ended up losing by 30 plus, so it was one of those nights for us. That's putting it mildly. It was a disaster." And his manufactured confrontation, rather than inspiring his teammates, might have actually made things worse by disrupting whatever offensive rhythm they had left. This connects back to the WNBA world in an interesting way. We saw multiple altercations during the 2024 WNBA season, particularly involving Angel Reese and the Chicago Sky. The Chennedy Carter shove on Caitlin Clark, the hard foul by Alyssa Thomas on Reese, multiple instances of players getting physical, squaring up, talking trash, and in almost every case, those confrontations failed to change the game's outcome. The team that was winning before the altercation usually kept winning afterward. The idea that you can manufacture momentum through physical intimidation is outdated in both leagues. Modern basketball is too skill-dependent, too reliant on shooting and spacing, for old-school enforcer tactics to work consistently. Yet players keep trying it anyway, because that mythology still exists in basketball culture. The belief that being tough, being physical, being willing to fight somehow translates to competitive advantage. Sometimes it does provide a temporary emotional boost, but more often, like in this Philadelphia-Orlando game, it accomplishes nothing, except getting people ejected and creating viral clips. Now let's address the Jalen Suggs element, because his involvement adds another layer to this story. Suggs dated Hailey Van Lith during her time at LSU, when Van Lith was teammates with Angel Reese. That relationship ended, and Van Lith transferred to TCU for her final college season, before likely entering the WNBA draft. So you've got this web of connections. Suggs defending Carter, who's dating Reese, who used to play with Suggs' ex-girlfriend. These personal relationships intersecting with professional basketball create subplot narratives that fans find fascinating even when they're ultimately irrelevant to the actual game. What matters more is how Suggs responded in the moment. He saw his teammate being confronted, made a split-second decision to defend him, and paid the price with an ejection. That's team loyalty, which is admirable, but it's also exactly what Drummond wanted. By getting Suggs thrown out, Drummond removed one of Orlando's better perimeter defenders from the game. The problem was Philadelphia was so thoroughly outmatched that night that losing Suggs didn't matter. Orlando was deeper, better coached, more talented, and more motivated. They won going away regardless. The comparison to Andre Drummond's playing style and Angel Reese's playing style deserves deeper examination, because it reveals something important about how we evaluate basketball players differently, based on gender and league content. Drummond has been an NBA rotation player for 15 years. Despite having severe offensive limitations, he can't shoot beyond 5 feet. He's not a good free throw shooter, hitting just 58. He's not a skilled passer. His defensive awareness is inconsistent, but he rebounds at an elite level, and that single skill has kept him employed and wealthy throughout his career. Angel Reese demonstrated similar strengths and limitations in her rookie WNBA season. She led all rookies in rebounding, pulled down 13.1 boards per game, and impacted games through effort and positioning. But she shot just 39.1% from the field, and 18.8% from three-point range. Her offensive game needs significant development. Yet she was one of the most impactful rookies in the league, because rebounding matters enormously in basketball, and she dominated that category. The question becomes, if Andre Drummond can build a $150 million career on rebounding and limited offense, why should Angel Reese be criticized for having a similar profile? The answer is, she shouldn't. The criticism Reese received during her rookie season about her offensive limitations was often unfair, especially when male players with comparable skill sets get praised for doing the dirty work and impacting winning without scoring. This double standard exists throughout basketball coverage. When a male player dominates rebounding but struggles offensively, he's called a specialist, or a glue guy, or someone who does the little things. When a female player has the same profile, she gets labeled as limited or one-dimensional, or not skilled enough. The evaluation criteria shifts based on gender, which is both obvious and frustrating for anyone paying attention. What makes this altercation particularly ironic is that Drummond, whose game mirrors Reese's style, was squaring up with Reese's boyfriend. It's like a basketball funhouse mirror situation, where the playing style similarities create this weird connection between an NBA veteran and a WNBA rookie through their shared approach to the game, and now they're connected through this confrontation involving the rookie's boyfriend. The whole thing feels almost scripted in how perfectly the narratives intersect. The broader context here is about how basketball culture handles conflict differently across leagues and eras. In the 1980s and 1990s NBA, what Drummond did would have been standard operating procedure. Every team had an enforcer, whose job was to set physical tone, protect teammates, and intimidate opponents through confrontation. The Detroit Pistons built championship teams around this philosophy. The New York Knicks employed it throughout the 1990s. It was accepted as part of winning basketball. But the modern NBA has evolved past that approach, both because the rules changed to protect skill players and because analytics revealed that physicality matters less than shooting and spacing. Today's game rewards teams that can make threes and create efficient offense, not teams that try to bully opponents through physical play. The WNBA is following a similar trajectory, moving away from physical confrontation towards skill-based competition. Yet the old mentality persists in both leagues. Players still believe that showing toughness, that being willing to fight, somehow matters for team success. Sometimes it does provide emotional energy, but more often it's counterproductive, resulting in ejections, technical fouls, and disrupted offensive rhythm. The statistics consistently show that teams don't improve their winning percentage by getting into more altercations. If anything, the correlation runs the opposite direction. So when Andre Drummond squares up with Wendell Carter Jr., trying to spark his team through confrontation, he's operating from an outdated playbook. And when it fails spectacularly, with Philadelphia losing by 35 points anyway, it demonstrates why that approach no longer works in modern basketball. The game has moved on. The tactics that worked in 1995 don't work in. The same lesson applies to the WNBA, where we saw multiple altercations during the 2024 season that ultimately accomplished nothing except creating viral content and feeding narrative-driven coverage. The basketball itself matters more than the confrontation. The skill development matters more than the toughness displays. And the sooner both leagues fully embrace that reality, the better the product becomes for everyone watching. What this incident really highlights is how interconnected the NBA and WNBA worlds have become, through relationships, playing style comparisons, and shared basketball culture. When Wendell Carter gets into an altercation, it becomes a WNBA story because of who he's dating. When Andre Drummond's playing style gets discussed, it invites comparison to Angel Reese, because their games are structurally similar. These connections create richer narratives that span both leagues, which is ultimately good for growing basketball as a whole. The question is whether we can discuss these connections without falling into the celebrity gossip trap. Because honestly, who these athletes date matters far less than how they play basketball, and how their playing styles reflect broader trends in the sport. The Drummond-Carter altercation is interesting because of what it reveals about outdated intimidation tactics in modern basketball. Not because Carter happens to be dating a WNBA star, but the relationship angle is what makes it go viral.